just really getting going, and I'll let you kind of chime in as well. Was just talking about your rugby player and just needs analysis. So, what would you say some of the primary? What are some of the main? We already talked about some of the muscles used. What are some of the injuries? And you already kind of listed some that this guy has here. What are some of the main injuries and things we want to watch out for when talking about the sport of rugby?
We'll have to look at shoulder stability because there is a lot of collisions in this sport, and they have some groin hamstring strains because maybe a lack of strength in the posterior chain, ankle sprains as well in terms of change of direction.
Yeah.
And yeah, so overall posterior chain a lot. I will focus on that.
Yep.
And that will be it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say posterior chain. That's a great one just to point out because so many movements are going to be based on that, and weakness or lack, of posterior chain strength is going to be the reason we can, start a chain reaction of hamstring injuries, lower back injuries, things that can be so common in a sport like this, especially when you talk about the contact. So that's going to be important. But yeah, so we'll. I just wanted to briefly just kind of scroll through his prior one, which was going to be his preseason programming. We went over this a couple months back. So again, the focus was going to be max strength and power, the plyo phase. So again, looking at everything, I like how you have the mobility broke down. And I like how you even have the time and out circuit 40-20. I like it. Going into some plyo work to start. Obviously, we do our power, explosive things first. Counter movement jumps, ice skaters, med ball throws, and swings. Going into our kind of core meat and potatoes here with a back squat, military press, seated row. Got some Nordics or hamstring curls. And then a last circuit with kind of some core work, push-ups, dead bug, Copenhagen, and split squat. So that was kind of our preseason or our last phase. Now I'll flip it over to you, Amir. Kind of talk to me about where your mind was, kind of what was going to shift now that you're programming for in season versus preseason, and what are some things you kind of added or tweaked. So I'll pass it back to you now.
All right. So yeah, for in season, I thought that I would have less time with them or with the player. So I would focus more on getting, still having a base of strength and focusing more on power. So I was thinking of maybe implementing the complex method or accommodated resistance afterwards. So in my understanding, I think complex method works with so a heavy movement followed by a ballistic movement, plyometric movement, I think. So for the warm-up, I would do the same thing as before, a small circuit for 10 minutes. So for a bit more stuff. So bottoms up kettlebell press. Are you still listening? Because I have maybe a small problem with my internet connection.
You broke up.
Okay?
You broke up for a few seconds, but you're back clear now.
All right. So I was talking about the prehab stuff. I would implement bottoms up kettlebell press, and then from this position, open up also, maybe for some rotator cuffs and shoulder stability. Then I would do Nordic hamstrings. I would maybe progress them with a band or trying to get them go back up without pushing into the floor. And the last one, I was hesitating a bit. I called it a karaoke walk with sled. So that's more for the adductors and legs, and just to prevent injuries in the groin as well. Mm-hmm. Then for the plyometrics, I would implement drop jumps or death jumps. I'm not sure about the difference between the two. That was one of my questions for you later.
Yeah.
Then I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're the same thing. I've seen, I feel like I've seen drop jumps to just refer to like the bot, like just the death portion, where I feel like depth jumps can be like more varied, like even if you jump again afterwards. I don't think there's an actual difference, just like going off when I usually hear the terminology rather. Usually when I hear people say drop jump, they're just talking about focusing on the down phase. Whereas somebody, usually if I hear depth jumps, it could be that, or it can be like actually getting back into another jump afterwards.
All right. Yeah, so that would be something similar. Then the other one would be ice skater. Now without amortization phase or landing phase. So they would go from right to left for 12 seconds. So we're working on ATP, on the ATP system here. Then the last one would be more upper body, med ball wall throw. And then I would put the band between their arms and the torso. So inside, and then so they will anchor the band with their thumb and then push for 12 seconds as well. So that was the pre-core workout. Then the main session would be the same thing. So trap bar, triple extension. I didn't think of something that would maybe replace this exercise, so I kept it the same. And then afterwards, we would do the complex method. So back squat, 4 triples at 93%, followed by box jumps. And I don't know about the height. So you guys, I think, use inches. We use centimeters. But I don't know for either one of them how to program the height. I didn't get some information about that.
Yeah.
Then the last exercise.
Did you freeze up over there, Amir? Oh, yeah.
The band, and then while they're pushing, the disc is. Sorry. So what was it?
Oh yeah. So you got through the I think it started to freeze up. You got through talking about just the box jumps and the pay loss, and then I think you started to freeze up after that.
Yeah, so I was telling you that the pail of press would be with a small disc inside the band.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that will be the first complex. Then the second one would be upper body. Mm-hmm. So
I think we might have lost you again, Amir. Yeah, I think it's all good. I know his service is kind of I think you just told me. All right, cool. He says he's gonna switch his internet connection out. So yeah, I'll just kind of go through a few of the things, and then let him finish when he gets through there. So yep, bench press into a clap push up in the Copenhagen's with knee on the blocks, then finishing with some assistance, which I like, half RDL, farmer's carry, seal row, and then back extension and reverse hypers. I like it a lot. So before I make any comments, does anybody have any questions, comments about the plan? What you think of it, or anything you were confused or unsure about?
What's the Copenhagen plank?
The Copenhagen plank is going to be. Have you ever seen those side planks where you like have your legs on like a bench and like
okay.
Basically one leg on top of the bench, one leg under. It's it adds in a lot of like groin work and stuff as well with that. So it's basically like a side plank, adding in more adductor and groin strength.
Gotcha.
Yep. So yeah, but yeah, I like his workout selection a lot. I like him throwing the complex set in, especially in the in season category. Really the only thing I would just say is working on remembering the in season. It's probably going to be slightly too much volume. Remember, when we're in season, we got to remember we're focused on peaking and maintenance. We're not going to have as much time in the weight room with these with our athletes. Again, a sport like rugby, as you know, as he talked about, can be strenuous in game. So again, I'm not depending on if this was the only workout they're getting in this week, maybe 2 to 3 sets of everything. But it's very unlikely she'll be able to that you'd be getting in 4+ sets of exercises just during the season, because you want to make sure you're not going too much on the volume aspect. So I would probably recommend 2 to 3 sets of this compared to 4. And then again, if it was he only sent 1 day of it. So let's say he was doing 2 days in season, I would probably recommend just like 1 to 2 sets of everything. Remember, we're really only focusing on Amir, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I was just talking about, so that's day one.
Yeah.
I was focusing more on squatting motion and pressing motion.
Yeah.
And then on day 2, I will focus on hinge movement and a hinge movement.
Okay.
And on a pull movement.
Okay. Dope.
And that's the opposite for the assistant exercises. So here I incorporated more pulls and hinge exercises.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Yeah, I was gonna say like, yeah, that was the only thing I would say. Just be careful with the amount of volume in season. Again, like I mean, typically, and again, there's exceptions to everything, but typically the 4 rounds, when you're talking about power move, probably be more of a preseason thing, just because you still have time to get more done in the weight room. And again, now let's say, for example, they're giving you an hour and a half in the weight room with the guys, and maybe 4 rounds, as long as their power and explosivity is there. But yeah, you're probably just gonna have time for 2 to 3 sets, and because in season we really want to just focus on the maintenance. Probably 1 warm-up set, then 2 sets at that optimal weight. And then you asked about box jump height. I think that's a good question too. When it comes to height, I mean, when you're programming, it's really about kind of what you want to be focused on that day. So you know how you kind of mentioned with the ice skaters, how you really want to pretty much no amortization phase, how you're working these quick jumps side to side. You can do the same thing with box jumps. You're deciding, do you want to be focused on quickness, time into the jump that day, so quickness and time into the jump, or do you want to be focused on optimal power, how high they can get a vertical maximum? I think you as the coach are going to decide that beforehand. If you really want to work on just like quick ground contact and stuff, we'll do a lower box, quicker time on each one. But if we want to focus on optimal vertical jump height, optimal, high point, then we might get a higher box with more rests and more amortization each set. So I honestly like programming both. Like maybe again, if you have them 2 days, 1 day we're focusing on jumps for quickness and time, another day we're focusing on jumps for high point and vertical jump.
Quick question off of that.
Yep.
Doesn't weight account for that too, in some form?
Just like their size, or you mean like weighting the exercise?
Like their size, like the athlete size.
Yeah. So I mean, it is. So that's a great one. So for example, I've talked about it before on here. NSCA for the CSCS, they actually don't want anyone that's over 220 doing depth jumps that's over 18 inches, I believe is the number they give. So like 1.5 foot, because they say it's just too much risk on knee and ankle stability with that much weight carrying around. Now, again, in reality, I think that number could be way higher, and it's obviously going to depend on body type, because there are people that are 250 pounds nowadays that can do depth jumps probably more than any of us. So that won't matter. So I mean, the weight of the person does matter, but again, I think once you've programmed or once you work with this athlete to a certain extent, it's not going to matter as much. So like, yeah, so if weight would matter more for like newer athletes, newer clients. So if I get a new client that's, let's say, 230 plus pounds, they indicate to me that they haven't done much when it comes to the jumping aspect, especially in the weight room. I'm probably gonna keep the box low. I'm probably gonna focus really slow and control movements. I'm probably not gonna go for time. But let's say this is a college level athlete, or even somebody I've been training for months to years at a time, then the weight's gonna matter less, because then I know they have body control. But that in short, for unskilled athletes and people working out, weight is gonna matter a lot more, but skill kind of corrects that out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let me look at the rest of the exercise. I like your programming. I like how you focused on a push mainly for the strength and explosive these days, with a lot more posterior chain in the assistance. And then for day 2, kind of flipping it up. I think that's a great little programming, thing that you've thrown in there, like focus on strength and explosivity with one, movement pattern, focusing on assistance and kind of supplemental exercise with another. It's a great way of not getting them too fatigued, in that exercise while still being able to work full body and multiple movements. So I actually like that a lot. But yeah, no real other comments from me. Again, just watch the volume when you're talking in season. Just because remember, we want to make sure we optimize that peaking, but still keep that maintenance. The number one thing we have to ensure doesn't happen is that a athlete is going into into that game or into their game too fatigued from something. So that's the only reason I say keep the volume down.